That was The Instigators. The Instigators is a 2024 American heist comedy film directed by Doug Liman, starring Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Jeff Robinoff, John Graham, Kevin J. Walsh, and Allison Winter. Forget all of that. That's who produced it.
Yeah, which Affleck is in this movie?
This movie stars Matt Damon, Casey Affleck,
Okay.
Hong Chow, Michael Stolbarge, Paul Walter Hauser, Ving Rhames, Alfred Molina, Toby Jones, Jack Harlow, and Ron Perlman, amongst others. The official IMDb plot synopsis for The Instigators is: follows two robbers who must go on the run with the help of one of their therapists after a theft doesn't go as planned. What did you guys think of The Instigators? Anybody want to go first?
I feel like Zach does not want to go first on this one. Yeah, I'll go first. Sure, why not?
All right.
I thought this was a fun movie. And for me, it was fun because of the Matt Damon, Casey Affleck chemistry. They just play off each other very well. And, you know, them in this movie as two, I don't want to call them clueless burglars, maybe hapless is a better way to say it. You know, we don't really know much about Casey Affleck's background, but we know he's been in the crime world or the petty crime world for a while. Matt Damon's kind of new to all of this. And they just, they get involved in this poorly planned, poorly executed, and I guess poorly lucked or bad lucked heist, right? That goes wrong for them very quickly. I appreciate that this movie, the heist happens like in the first 10 minutes of this movie. And I'm watching this with my wife, and she's like, well, this didn't go poorly for them. Like, anytime the heist is right away, it's not going to go down for them well whatsoever. But anyway, like, they're just sort of these two guys, hapless crooks, sort of trying to talk their way through this whole situation. And just how they play off each other, I thought was a lot of fun. You mentioned Hong Chow's in this. She plays Matt Damon's therapist because he's involved with the VA. And she's kind of along for the ride. And it's, Matt Damon's doing things and like holding hostages. And she's asking him like, well, how does it make you feel right now? Like, give him therapy questions throughout, which are clever. Casey Affleck's like trying to get in some free therapy while this is all going down. So yeah, I think for me, just the charm of the two is what really kept the movie afloat for me. But also the setting. This movie is set in Boston. These two characters are from Quincy, which is a suburb of Boston. They've got obviously the accents going on. So you see Matt Damon saying things like firearm, and it's me being from the East Coast, being from Massachusetts. It's comforting whenever I hear that accent. It reminds me of being back home visiting my family. They're going to locations in Boston, that area that I'm familiar with. Like at one point, they end up at a beach town. That's Salisbury Beach, and I've been there a couple times. I was actually there like a year ago. Like, oh yeah, I know Salisbury Beach. I don't know that yellow house that they were at specifically, but yeah. So I don't know. You got a combination of the chemistry of those two plus the comforting Boston setting, and I was I cozied up to this movie on a Saturday night.
All right. Zach, you want to go next? You want me to?
Yeah, I'll go next.
All right.
This movie, my first reaction to it about halfway through was just, I felt tedious to me. I was not on board with what the movie was giving me. I like buddy comedies. I like two hapless criminals that have funny banter. I like that idea. And I like these actors quite a bit. But
quite a bit refers to a significant amount.
That's what it refers to. But it's just the really mean criminal that like hires them or whatever. It was just so uninteresting to me. Like I've just seen that character in so many movies where he's like super angry all the time and yelling at people to give me what I want. It's just like so boring. And but the second half of the movie, I felt it got funnier. They leaned more into like the squabbling between Matt Damon and Casey Affleck, and I enjoyed that more. I really liked the therapist character and actress. First of all, her voice is just perfect for this role.
Yeah.
I will say, as far as these things go, this plot was much more ridiculous as far as like, would this actually happen at all? How anything happens in real life? And the answer is very much no. There were so many ridiculous plot points that you just had to hardcore set your disbelief on a shelf in order to watch this movie, which is fine. And the resolution at the end, I'll just call it that, I guess, seems so just like a no-brainer. Like, why didn't you do that a year ago? I don't know. I was like, the resolution was a resolution for sure and a realization for the character, but the movie didn't convince me that he couldn't have had that revelation without everything that transpired.
Man, I don't know what revelation
I don't know
talking
what
about.
revelation you're talking about either.
Okay, so the main character.
You can just say their name. You can say Matt Damon or
Matt
Casey
Damon.
Affleck. Okay,
Matt
thank you.
Damon.
It's not well, spoiler alert, Matt Damon's in this movie, everybody.
Goes through this entire ordeal and then comes to this decision that he's going to do something different than he's been doing.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know if this movie convinced me that like he didn't believe that before, and now going through this, he does believe that. He should have just done that a year ago. I just didn't understand what was holding him back necessarily from doing what he did.
I guess I didn't put too much thought into the emotional growth of these two characters. It's there on screen. I agree. It's there on screen. But I wasn't thinking like, did he really grow throughout these crazy 48 hours? So
yeah, that's because you infantilized the movie because it was silly.
I mean, it is silly, but I found it charming and enjoyable.
Yeah.
I guess for me, I will agree. The side characters, with the exception of Hong Chow, but like pretty much every other side character is a trope, is pretty paper thin. So anytime we were not with Matt Damon and Casey Affleck, I was like, okay, what's Poochie doing right now? But then we got back to Matt Damon and Casey Affleck, and the movie kept going. And like I think at one point they even cut to like the gangster and Alfred Molina in a cabin somewhere. And I was like, why do we care about them in this cabin? Like their story means nothing to me whatsoever. Like they could easily have cut out, once everything went bad, they could have cut out most of the other gangsters and the movie would have been just fine.
Agreed. I thought this was about as middle of the road as it gets for these kinds of movies. I didn't find anything particularly memorable in a good way or in a bad way at all. Probably because Matt Damon and Casey Affleck are perfectly capable actors that can memorize a ho-hum script and perform it on screen. And that's what I felt like we got. I didn't feel any real passion anywhere in this movie, or like any real, as an outside observer, I didn't feel any motivation coming from anybody who was working on this, including like Doug Liman, short of like, let's make something this year type of thing, as opposed to this is a story we actually want to tell and like put a good year of our life towards telling. It felt more like, hey, I like you guys, let's find a script and sell it to Apple type of vibe.
Yeah, no, it very much felt like Apple put out the feelers that like, hey, we will do a heist movie with 2 stars and a named director.
Right.
If you can do it for this budget and in this time frame, go.
Yeah, and like the therapist patient aspect felt a little undercooked. Like they never gave any solid reasons for why Matt Damon's character was the way he was, in my opinion. I felt like there were like maybe some hints here and there that maybe he was ex-military or something like that.
Well, yeah, she was a VA
right.
therapist. I mean, they kept calling him the Marine. He talked about how he was a mechanic. Do you need anything else that
I don't know. I didn't feel. I don't know. I didn't feel like there was anything on screen short of words and maybe a few visual cues here and there that like gave you a good picture of why he might be asking this big existential question. And then on top of that, I didn't fully understand how the events of the film changed his mind about those things, because it didn't seem like there were a lot of learning moments or anything like that in the movie, short of like, so he likes Casey Affleck in the end. You know what I mean? Like that seemed like the only thing that changed from the beginning to the end. Although at the beginning, it's not like he doesn't like Casey Affleck. They didn't bicker. He didn't hate the guy.
Right.
They're just doing a job together.
So there's a scene at the beach house where Matt Damon's explaining his motivation for why he needs the money and then what he's going to do after he gets the money. Right.
Right.
And Casey Affleck says something to him like, because it doesn't matter. It's not the money that they care about. It's you showing up.
Sure.
So I think that was part of that revelation. Like the movie does take time to talk about what is Matt Damon's motivation. And then, Casey Affleck kind of responds to it being like, I don't think that's what really matters. And I think that was, if we can talk about the growth now, I'll think about it. I think that was probably part of his growth, is like actually telling someone else what his plan was. And then that person being like, well, that's stupid. Like, that's not what really matters. And then I'm sure that's kind of cooked with Matt Damon throughout the movie.
Sure. You think his therapist could have said something like that to him? Maybe changed his mind without
I mean,
the events of the movie, but evidently the base level advice for somebody posing those questions to themselves wasn't worth asking in sessions. Evidently.
I don't know. Maybe the therapist is not an abandoned child. Sometimes you got to speak your truth.
Sure. I don't know.
Are you guys on board with me that this movie required the most suspension of disbelief I've needed in a long, long time?
Well, yeah,
it had a heightened tone at times.
Right. There's a whole kind of subplot about the mayor's race and the safe, and that they keep circling around this whole mayor's race and what's in this safe. And yeah, coincidences happen that bring them to the climax of the movie. We'll say it that way.
Everything with Ron
of
Perlman was a different movie to me.
Yeah, it was pretty different.
Oh, he went big. Yeah.
The choice of hostage negotiator was so random. So ridiculous.
I also like how she said she was gonna hide something in her bulletproof vest and walk out. Like they're not gonna ask for the vest back that they gave her to go into the building for. I said,
Sure.
oh, you guys! I thought I'd keep this as a souvenir.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else, Zach, didn't work for you besides that?
Oh, there's a way. So at one point they were being threatened at gunpoint, but he had a little trick up his sleeve in order to get away. Right? Remember that?
Oh, this is at the beach house.
Yes.
Yes.
Remember his trick up his sleeve?
Yes.
And then, for no reason at all, a different character has the same trick up his sleeve that is again used. The exact same thing happens later from a different character. Why is it the exact same thing?
It's a callback.
I thought it was the same character who did it both times.
No, I don't think it was. Was it? Oh, did he do it both times?
I think he did it both times. It's the same trick. He has one sleeve.
Oh, I thought someone else did it the second time.
No. The same guy did it both times.
Okay. All right. Then I feel better with that.
Okay, good. Half star bump.
Oh, yeah. For sure. But parts of it were funny.
Yeah.
It was fine. As like a Saturday night diversion, you can certainly do worse than this, definitely, because everybody executing it is at minimum competently doing that.
Right.
But it's also just never going to make anybody's favorite films list. You know what I mean? Not that every movie has to, but like I can't imagine anyone putting this on a favorite films list ever, because it'll be forgotten about in 24 hours.
Well, my top 20 of 2024 is going to surprise you guys.
Oh, wow.
Casey Affleck really just does one kind of performance, the mumble sarcasm. Matt Damon has a couple different performances that he can do in a movie. One of them is the hapless idiot. that he did in this one.
Mhm.
And the other is, the strong silent type
Mhm.
from like a Bourne movie. And then the other is the irrationally angry.
Mhm.
He does that a lot.
It seems like you're minimizing his talents for who's possibly your favorite actor.
Yeah, I think it's my favorite actor.
Okay.
I mean, him or Denzel, probably.
But you
Or, yeah.
But like, you don't think Matt Damon and Denzel are in the same category though of talent?
I think Denzel is more talented an actor,
Okay.
but I think they're both very talented.
Okay, interesting. Because by the fact that you were like saying Matt Damon could do like 3 things, that sounds like you're saying he's not that talented.
Well, Denzel Washington can probably do one thing, right?
He's got
one
about
thing.
He's got about 3 things too. I think they have an
Maybe
even
3
amount of
things.
things.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think Denzel's got more things than 3.
How many things? Articulate them.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think Brando's a better actor anyway. So why are you guys asking me?
You think Brando is a better actor
No,
than
remember we
Denzel?
did a head-to-head and I picked Brando over. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just felt like I don't know. Like this is an extreme comparison, theoretical comparison, but like I don't know, like you hand Da Vinci a set of paintbrushes, and instead he grabs some crayons and gets to work. It's like he's still Da Vinci. He still can make good things. It's just for some reason it's all feeling a little lesser than what we know these guys can put out. And I think maybe what started at the script is part of the problem, and also the budget. Like I there's a sequence in here with a fire engine and a police SWAT van that I thought was interesting because it looked very practical. I'm assuming most of it was. And it's really short because probably they don't have the budget for like an extended Fast and Furious sequence, sequence.
Right.
And so I felt that watching. I was just like, wow, they were starting to cook here and then they were done, like before they really got started in my brain. And then there was another effect where something exploded and the effect, it was clearly digital fire.
Oh, when the bar exploded.
It was really awful digital fire.
Yes. Same for when the safe fell out the window onto a car.
Yes.
Like I watched that and I just got sad because I was like, if you made this movie 30 years ago, they would have just pushed a safe out a window onto a car.
Yeah.
But like, no, now we have to CG it and like everything looks both too heavy and weightless at the same time. Like it just made me, I shed a single tear during that moment because I was like, how hard is it to push a safe out a window?
Also, anybody who knows anything about gravity knows a safe wouldn't fall faster than anything else you threw out the window. So
right, it also like has to gain speed. It doesn't hit terminal velocity immediately.
Right,
like that sequence was bad. Or there's a moment they're on a bus and like they're obviously using CG scenery, and it looked
I saw that one too.
terrible. It looked so bad, and I was just, I don't know.
Just get on a real bus already.
Yeah, like are we? I don't know much about movie making. Are we saving that much money by just shooting like in a bus in a studio versus like let's just drive a bus around the city? I don't know the answer to that, but it's so noticeable, and it just feels like we as in movies are cutting corners to save, I don't know, a couple million here, a couple million there, and you could just do things, and I think people would enjoy it so much more to actually just do something real.
But that's the difference with a streamer, right? Once they hit play, you've made your money on it, right? They can't hit unplay, so who cares if there's bad CG and bad green screen through the bus window and Looney Tunes style safe drop and all these other things that didn't necessarily ruin the movie, but also if you care about quality, you compare that in your brain to things that don't do, shortcuts like that. Kind of annoying.
Do you think like these actors and the director, do they think of this in a kind of a similar way as like, an actor doing a Japanese commercial or something? They're like, well, it's just streamer. I don't have to like promote it very much.
Right. Nobody's really going to see this, and we already got paid. We don't get any residuals. So
yeah.
It's probably not that many weeks of work for the actors.
Yeah.
Like Ron Perlman, he worked a week on this movie.
Sure. Well, Ron Perlman might be the only actor in this movie where I'm like, that guy may have earned his money. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure I agree
he's
with
doing
his.
something.
He's doing something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He looked
Yeah.
very into being the bad mayor. And he made use of every scene he was in. Felt like he was in a different movie than everybody else, but he was at least swinging for the fence.
Was there supposed to be like a weird romance between the therapist and Casey Affleck?
I kind of got that vibe too.
Yeah, because Casey Affleck does say he's kind of hitting on her, and she was like, "Oh, I have safe boundaries with my patients."
Mm-hmm.
And then he says something like, "Oh, did you not used to not to?" or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But then they don't go anywhere with it, because I do agree there's a lot of half-baked ideas in this movie. Like, maybe I'm giving this movie a little too much credit because of Casey Affleck, Matt Damon in Boston, but
right,
it was enough to carry it for me. So, Hong Chow name drops. She did her residency at Beth Israel. I was like, I was born there. I like this movie now. So,
yeah, I mean, the movie Never Back Down, famously shot at my old high school. I like that movie, and I can admit most people shouldn't like that movie because they're not from that high school and there's not a whole lot left.
Kyle, do you remember the joke? She said that she's from Lynn, and he's like, "Oh, that figures. You're from Lynn." What is Lynn?
Yeah, I don't even know what that means.
That I don't know enough about that suburb.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
I know Quincy's like South Boston, and South Boston, Southie. That's kind of the working class portion of Boston.
Okay,
sure.
All right.
Anything else with the Instigator? Also, the title. Before we leave, the title. Like, so they're instigating. I didn't understand the title.
It makes no
sense.
Terrible.
Yeah. Terrible.
Right.
Yeah. It's hard to remember. I've had to like rethink about it a couple times. Remember, and then it really doesn't apply at all to anything in the movie.
Right. Yeah. It's like they wanted to name it The Negotiator, but that was taken. So they went Instigator.
Right. Here's my question for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Damon needed $32,000.
$32,480.
And he tried everything he could think of except for this, right? Crime, I guess.
Yeah.
Is that really his only option? I feel like for $32,000,
it's a realistic amount.
Like
yeah.
He could have somehow cobbled it together.
No, I think he tried everything.
Why didn't the therapist give it to him? She's an MD.
Well, because
she clearly will.
She has
bend
boundaries.
The rules. No, she doesn't really. She like the things that she's willing to do, but she's not willing to just give him $30,000.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can give a man a fish and feed him for a day.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can teach a man to fish.
I guess she's worried if once he has it, what he'll do.
Yeah. Because obviously we can tell he was a huge drug user.
Is that why towards the end she asks him about, his core issue? And he says, that's not an issue anymore. And that's why she makes the offer to do what she did with the bulletproof vest.
Yeah.
So if he had said still an issue, she wouldn't have done that with the bulletproof vest. Okay. All right. She's got a moral through line, I guess.
Yeah. I liked her character.
It was fine. Everybody in the movie was fine. That's the problem with it.
I already know what James is giving this movie.
4 stars from James.
Yeah, what if I went 5 stars?
Middle of the road.
Right at the end?
4 stars.
5 stars.
All right. Are you guys ready, or does anybody have anything else to say before we letterbox this?
I'm ready. I'm feeling generous.
All right.
You're feeling generous.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll give it a 2.5.
Yep. Yes, you will. I give it 3 stars.
I'm gonna go 3.5.
Nice.
All right. A 2.5, a 3, a 3.5, which just feels entirely too high on all 3 of our parts, to be honest.